Hi,
Okay.
everybody. Welcome to the 11th annual Culturama. This is our online weekend to wrap up this year's event. My name is Lloyd Aquino. I'm the Culturama coordinator and a professor of creative writing poetry at Mount San Antonio College in Walnut, California. I'm going to introduce really quickly our workshop leader and then turn things over to her. This is the fantastic Ekphrastic workshop with Betsy Mars, who is a prize-winning poet, photographer, and an assistant editor at Gyroscope Review. Recent poems of hers can be found in One Art, Quartet, Sheila Na Gig, and Autumn Sky. Her photos have appeared online and in print, including one which was a Rattle Ekphrastic Challenge prompt in 2019. She has two books, Alenia, and her most recent co-written with Alan Wolowitz, In the Muddle of the Night. And Betsy is currently working on a full-length manuscript titled Rue Obscure. So Betsy, take it away.
Hi. Okay, I'm gonna try. We have an hour and 20 minutes, is that correct? Or a little
That's
less?
correct. Yeah, we
Okay,
have until
I'm
10:20.
trying to time myself out so I don't blab too much because I tend to wander sometimes. So I'm really glad that everybody's here. And I want to make sure, I don't know if anyone else is going to come on screen eventually, but it's fine if you are comfortable staying off screen. That's completely fine with me. Although I'd love to see you. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing everyone's name correctly, though. Is it Slavka? If you're there, I just want to make sure.
Sorry, yes, it's Swafka. Swafka. I'll
Slav.
write it in the chat.
Okay. Whenever I substitute teach, I always make sure that I'm pronouncing things correctly because I'm very I lived in another country when I was young and always have been very interested in languages and cultures. So I don't want to mispronounce anyone's names. I'm gonna write that down too. But thank you everybody for being here. I'm really grateful. I've been in a number of workshops on ekphrastic poetry, and I really started putting my poetry out there more seriously only in the last 10 years or so, and I've been very fortunate. And one thing I stumbled upon that I hadn't known about before was ekphrastic poetry. And one reason I especially like it is that I think I tend to be kind of literal and write a lot about my personal experience and feelings and so on, and not I don't feel like I'm necessarily particularly imaginative. And then what I discovered was that when I would work with art, sometimes stories would just come to me. And usually in the end, I realized that I'm still writing about myself. It just might be a little bit more roundabout, but I did find that oh, somebody else is coming, yay. I did find that it kind of opened some doors for me. So what I want to do, so I don't get deviate too much, and feel free to interrupt and ask questions if you need to. I did prepare a PowerPoint presentation, my first time doing it, so hopefully it's all right. And we're going to go over, I'm not sure how familiar people are with ekphrastic poetry, what it means and all that. So I'm gonna try not to do, oh no, I don't want to do that one. I'm gonna try not to do too much on it. Where did of course, I'm gonna share, but trying to find the PowerPoint and it's disappeared on me for some reason. I had it up right before we started though. Oh, there it is. It's right at the top. Okay. So can everyone see that? Anybody, can you see okay, great. Thank you, Andrew. Okay, so that picture I just stuck behind there because it seemed kind of relevant. It's actually a tile wall in Lisbon, and I thought it was really pretty, and so I stuck it behind there. Okay, so in this class, what we're going to go over is what is ekphrasis or ekphrasis, I'm not sure. What are some of the ways writers have approached ekphrastic work, things to think about? I'll give you some examples that I like of ekphrastic poetry, including some current poets who I really like, some of whom I know and admire their work. And then I've got some visual prompts, but if anybody, I don't know if you prepared in advance, but whoops, let me go back to that. So if you have any particular piece of art that you want to write to, feel free to write to whatever, and then we'll have time to write, and we'll have sharing if anyone wants to share questions, discussion about your process and how you felt about it. And then I have a slide with further resources and the links to what the artwork that I'm using and the poems that I'm using that I can share with anyone who wants to give me their email address as well. So I'm going to go on to the first one. I know there's a lot of text, and my daughter told me I shouldn't have so much text on PowerPoint, so I'm just going to skim it, and we can come back to it later again. I can share it with you. But basically, I wanted to emphasize that ekphrastic writing is basically writing in response to artwork, and it can be, I found I really like even doing details of architecture, gargoyles or anything that really catches my fancy. And the other nice thing that I found about it is when I start paying attention to these things, I start seeing things everywhere. And I also love to photograph, and one of the prompt art that I'm going to show you is a photograph that I had used for the Ekphrastic monthly response, and they have that going on every month, and you can if you get selected, which is really competitive. I've never gotten selected, but I've come close. They usually get 400 or 500 submissions, but they pay $100 for that, and it's kind of a fun exercise. But they were saying you might want to think about what memories or associations or emotions the artwork stirs in you. Think about, the details, spatial relationships, spatial expressions, if there are faces, colors, shapes. You might know more about art than I do. So, just look at the style, the mood, the subject matter. If you know about the materials used, you might think about how that might have limited the artist or why they chose to work in that particular medium, how you feel when you look at it. I just wanted to make a note. I love doing research. Some people do and some people don't. But what I found is sometimes I discover that maybe there's significance to a particular, maybe there's a flower that signifies death or or something like that. And so there's a reason why the artist chose to include that detail in the artwork. And so when you go through it, or maybe it's a painting of, I used to be bored with, some still lives or whatever, and there might be a painting of flowers, and I think, oh, well, that's a nice rendition of those flowers, but what is the significance of it, or why did they particularly choose to paint those? And sometimes when I do research about the period, I might discover, who influenced that artist, or just some other historical context or something that might enrich my work. So that's just something I wanted to have you keep in mind. If a lot of this might be obvious, so I'm hopefully not insulting anyone. So I'm trying to keep track of the time. So let's see. I'm going to move on. So where are we? Okay, so things to think about as you begin. And I said, I hope it's not too small. As you do this, if you have paper or if you've opened a document, you might want to ask yourself, first, I'm going to share a couple of poems. What mood does it create for you? Also, the art itself, what about the piece contributes to this feeling? How did the writer manage to convey that feeling? You might want to think about that. And as you're looking at the artwork, what aspects of the work do you focus on and why? What do you connect with? What story or memory or aspect of your own experience does this bring to mind? what do you think the artist wanted to convey or communicate? I don't want to be redundant here. For abstract work, what I found was abstract work to me is very difficult, but I did include one, and I've tried one. You can, kind of go wherever you want, but I would think about what are the artist's influences, what were the constraints of the materials, like I said. Sometimes I know that, it might just be aesthetically pleasing or represent a mathematical formula or it might be a number of things that the artist was striving for, but what does it make you feel, and how do you respond to it, and is there some connection you make to it? And I might go into that. I did one strange one that I haven't placed anywhere, but it was like a triangle, and I tried doing something triangular. I made kind of a shape, and it was an interesting exercise, but it was about the triangle of life, I think. And there's something about it was a medical thing that I just stumbled across. So you can go about it lots of different ways. I have one of the first poems I really liked, first Ekphrastic poems I really liked, was the Bone Pink Peony or Peony, and I always say that wrong. And it really talks about, I've got a link to it in the resources, but it really talks about what's happening outside of the frame. So I thought that was a very interesting approach, but obviously feel free to go any way you want. Am I going too fast or too slow? Any comments or questions so far? No. Okay. I wanted to, you don't have to read these now, but I wanted to show you that it's also interesting. Oh, there's a chat. Let's see. Oh, good. Okay, great. Thank you. I'm giving a couple of examples of two different responses to the same painting. One is a famous one by Auden, Musée des Beaux-Arts, and it's responding to Bruegel's landscape with the fall of Icarus. And I don't know if anyone wants to read this or if we should just continue. Would it help to read a couple? I might go to another one. Here's the second one just for comparison. And this one is, I guess it's traditional, I've read, to title your ekphrastic poem with the title of the work, but I have to say I don't always do that. Okay, let's see. Okay, great. Okay, how about if we read these two, because they are interesting in that they're responding to the same painting. Does someone want to volunteer to read? I don't have the best reading voice, but I will. Anybody? I wish I had the little. No. Okay, someone said reading would be nice, so if no one volunteers, wait, there's a chat. Oh, I see. Okay, I'm sorry. I wonder if I tried to enlarge it, but I can't put the text in there without it getting really messy. But so I'll read Musée des Beaux-Arts. About suffering, they were never wrong. The old masters, how well they understood its human position, how it takes place while someone else is eating or opening a window or just walking dully along. How, when the aged are reverently, passionately waiting for the miraculous birth, there always must be children who did not specially want it to happen, skating on a pond at the edge of the wood. They never forgot that even the dreadful martyrdom must run its course. However, in a corner, some untidy spot where the dogs go on with their doggy life, and the torturer's horse scratches its innocent behind on a tree. In Bruegel's Icarus, for instance, how everything turns away quite leisurely from the disaster. The plowman may have heard the splash, the forsaken cry, but for him it was not an important failure. The sun shone as it had on the white legs disappearing into the green water, and the expensive, delicate ship that must have seen something amazing, a boy falling out of the sky, had somewhere to get on and to get to and sailed calmly on. That always gives me goosebumps. And then this one is shorter. I know I had a hard time reading that too. I'm sorry. I can send this packet out though. So this is by William Carlos Williams on the same painting. According to Bruegel, when Icarus fell, it was spring. A farmer was plowing his field. The whole pageantry of the year was awake, tingling near. The edge of the sea, concerned with itself, sweating in the sun that melted the wings wax insignificantly off the coast. There was a splash, quite unnoticed. This was Icarus drowning. If I would like to actually, if anyone's willing to participate or volunteer, I wonder what you notice about those two, because I suddenly, as I read them, I noticed a couple of similarities actually. Where's the little, oh, thank you. I'll try that. Oh. Does anyone want to talk about anything they noticed in this? Anybody? I've got the gallery over here, but I might be missing somebody. Okay. Okay. Is that that's a better size? Okay. Okay. What I noticed, it's interesting because, well, I guess they both really talk about how this was not a significant thing for the other people in the picture. And I'm sure, or I feel like that is probably what Bruegel was trying to get across, that life goes on. And unless you're impacted by this particular death or this tragedy, you know, no one was really mindful of it. Yeah, nobody cared that he fell. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm looking at the chat. They both use place, plowing. That's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't, even as I put these up, I hadn't really noticed it until, let me go back to this one. I hadn't really noticed the similarities until I read this one. I'm sure he would have read Musée des Beaux-Arts, so it's interesting. I assume he would have. So he still kind of went along the same theme, but I think that's sort of unavoidable. But his poem is very different. If you see how his, you know, he's distinctively, I guess he's very, you know, known for more kind of abbreviated poetry. His lines are shorter. It's more kind of condensed. Anyone notice anything else in the difference between the two? In chat, or if you want to unmute and talk, that's fine. I don't want to linger too much on these so that we have writing time too. I'm trying to, okay, I'm still on my schedule at least. But if you have something that you observe, please speak up. Okay, this one, the poems are different, right? I'm looking at the chat. The poems are different, bound to be some crossover, right? Right, it's really interesting. They're different. They're still distinctively in the individual poet's voice. So I think, you know, after a while, I sometimes don't know that I think I have a voice. Maybe it's still evolving, but there are other people that are, to me, very recognizable, and they do feel very different, even though it's the same painting. So it does show you that you have a lot of freedom in what you do and how you approach it. Barbara Kirker is one of my favorite poets, and actually she writes a lot of ekphrastic work, and it's all beautiful. And she's actually in the Writer's Almanac today. And I read with her recently, and I met her because my mentor knows her and introduced me to her. And so I don't know if we want to take time to do one of these. I'd like to read one that's of a contemporary poet. Let me read Mark's maybe, or someone can volunteer to read Mark's, because this is short, and this is actually one of the ones that was for the one of the Ekphrastic challenges that I also sent something in for and didn't get chosen, but I still want to get it published somewhere. Does someone, now that I enlarged it, does someone want to volunteer to read?
I'll go ahead and read it.
Okay, great. I'll scroll. It's pretty short, but now that once I get past the title, I think I left a little too much space there. I'll move it down. And this is the artwork that was in response to.
Okay.
Okay.
Start with a brief description of the town, its sagging thoroughfares, its battered clock tower. Places like this exist for trains to falter through. Have you ever lost a sock in the wash? Here it is on Mrs. Owen's clothesline, drying in the rust-ruined sun. Wormholes connect us to outposts like this, main drags so proverbial in their want they must be paintings. What else can capture the hot charred candy center of a soul so beaten it whimpers beneath the rod of time? As if some wicked wastrel god playing a prank tossed snake eyes with trick dice, punished creation out of boredom twice.
Thank you for reading that. That was nice. I'm usually croaky, so I appreciate that. What do you notice about that? And how does that feel a lot different from Mark? He lives in Perugia, and I just recently met him too. But he's an expat, but he was born in Baltimore, raised mostly in the United States, but his father was Italian. So I'll just give you some background. But he's been selected for the Ekphrastic challenge a few times, and I just wonder what you notice about his poem or the way he approached the artwork.
It's much more everyday.
Yeah. Do you think that's because the painting represents sort of an everyday, or?
Yeah, it looks like there's a rain on the painting too. So it kind of feels like a little bit downtrodden.
Yeah, I was looking, I don't remember if the larger, when you saw it initially, yeah, I think that it was pretty evident that it was in there. I don't know if this is the whole thing, but I felt like it was a train passing through, and that's what I was noticing when I wrote my poem, and the blur, and also, yeah, I love that line, places like this exist for trains to falter through. I think I even experienced that riding the bike the other day. It's, strange looking into people's backyards, or, you see somebody else's life, and it's sort of very intimate. Have you ever lost a sock in the wash? Here it is. I personally really like his details. What else do you notice about this? Anything else?
I like the way he questions the reader so that you're kind of fully involved. So he instructs us really at the beginning to start with a description, and then goes ahead with his, and there are questions in it, and there's humor. And I really also like that line about trains to falter through.
I thought it was interesting that he basically is dictating how to write an Ekphrastic.
Yeah.
So that's one reason I chose this too, because a lot of times I think I'd be wary of doing that, but he pulls it off, I think. Yeah, right. Yeah, the art is very impressionistic. Like it's almost abstracted, but it's still, kind of clear. Like you see, I don't know if it's a smokestack or whatever, that he's pulling out details, or he's imagining what's there in this kind of town that's seen better days, or there are a lot of those around. I've found as I've traveled around everywhere the US, but a lot of places that used to be industrial centers that are no longer. I especially is like, I like that couplet at the end too, personally, because it's so tidy. It's so tight, it's like playing a prank, toss snake eyes with trick dice, punish creation out of boredom twice. I just think that's neat how he incorporates some rhyme in here, but most of it isn't so evident. Yeah, it's a sad state, a lot of these things. So I want to make sure again, because we have till 1:20. Okay, so of course I'm looking at blabbering on, but I want to show you, we don't have to read it necessarily, but I have to make that a little bit smaller. This is fun for me too, because I learn, I'm reading these more closely, and I like the discussion and what you notice, because it helps, selfishly, it helps me with my writing to think about these things too. And one of my favorite things is to discuss poetry. So this is another contemporary poet, Judy Cronenfeld. I really love her. And I asked her if I could use this. She actually was not sure that this was the particular artwork that she saw, but she saw it at an exhibit at the LA County Museum of Art. And she said it was a dark room where some of the, after a while, when your eyes adjusted, some of the details came out. Actually, this one's pretty short. Would somebody read it? Just to see how you might approach a more abstract work. Any volunteers?
I'm happy to read it, but my
Okay.
accent will do something different to the poem.
That's all right.
And also, can you make it a tiny bit bigger?
Yeah. As I'll move it. Whoops, I don't want to. It's hard to. I mean, I don't want to lose the beginning. I'll move it as we go. Maybe. Is that a little better?
That's perfect. Yeah, no, that's fine. Is it Rothko? Is that how you say it?
I say it that way, but I'm not saying. Whoops, sorry. I say it that way, but I'm not guaranteeing that that's right.
And then find I can't. Okay. Yeah. Rothko dark, like the quiet pool where I swam alone in a hotel at dusk in a northern country, a sombre pool in a barely lit room, low windows looking out on the ink sea, almost filling them, a sea of banked black fire, like the inside of my eyes, dull sheen flushed here and there with the ghost purpling of an unseen sun, or my own long looking, as if, even when immersed in the soul's darkest hours, giving oneself to darkness faintly lightens it.
So what do you think about that one, or notice about that?
The thing about the eyes was fantastic.
Which part?
Like black fire, like the inside of my eyes.
Yeah, I love that too. Yeah, I think wow too. I just did, it really, when I read, if not this one, she's written several on Rothko and Ghost Purpling. I love that too. When I read one of them, I remember thinking it kind of opened my eyes to seeing the painting better or differently than I might have in the past. Also, so it's sort of like a, reciprocal thing where the painting gave way to way to the poem, and the poem gave me an into the painting. What else does anyone giving oneself to darkness? Yeah, definitely deeply in the body. A lot of people have been talking about, being embodied in your work, bring your feelings into it. And I know I tend to be, I'm very, not only clumsy, I just tend to be very body unaware. And so I've been trying to think about that too. So I think that's really an interesting thing to point out. She does, that's just to demonstrate that you can kind of take an artwork and go sort of anywhere it takes you. And that's really what I wanted for you to get out of these examples. Okay, so I don't want to I don't want you to lose time. So oh, I need to change that font. Some possibilities. I just want to show you a few things. This, not to, I just like this poem because picture, because it was so atmospheric to me. And I was in Barcelona a number of years ago, and just this soul, person walking down there. And I thought, he has a story, or that has a story. Here's another one I took. These won't all be mine, I swear, in Portugal. And I just love the way the baby's looking at, I assume, her mother, and the expression. And I thought, there seemed like there might be a story there. I had, in preparing for this, one thing I really enjoyed too was I discovered other artists. And actually, I think I've seen this guy's work in San Francisco, but just didn't know who he was. But this was, I think, outside the Rockefeller building. And it has, if you go over here in the bigger picture, it has some quotation on the wall about want and giving, about, it made a statement about how our society should, make sure, instead of aspiring to wealth, make sure to care for everybody. Or I'm definitely not paraphrasing that well. But also, I love Vivian Meyer's photographs, and so I was looking for something of hers, and I thought about, this looks pretty precarious, and this guy's up there working, and I thought that could be interesting maybe. And another friend introduced me to this artist who I hadn't known before, and I just chose this one because I think sort of tells a story. And then this is someone else who had this painting was featured in the Rattle Ekphrastic Challenge, and I sort of know her, and I love her art. But this is called El Camino de Esmeralda, and I won't give anything away in case anyone wants to use it, but I thought it's got so much detail that, people could explore what's going on in here. What are these symbolic of, or whatever. I was fortunate to go to Norway with my son, and we went to this, I didn't know Vigiland, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but the park I thought overwhelming. It has over, I think, 200 statues, but they were all so evocative. And this one with the children, you can't see without walking around the whole thing, but they look a little sinister, maybe. I don't know, however you interpret it, but they're riding their mom, I guess. This is the one I had for the Rattle Ekphrastic Challenge, and I just threw it out there because I had trouble choosing one, but I did get to select the poem for that challenge, and it was fascinating, all the different ways people approach that photo. And then this one, I loved it, the Munch, the Dance of Life. I just think there's a lot going on in here that you could possibly respond to. And then just to bring up another option, or something to consider, what you might want to do is focus on a detail or one of the less central characters in a painting. So I don't know who it was. I forget what the title is, Visiting Greenie, but I don't know if this is Greenie or if someone else is Greenie, or she's on her way and passes this guy and what's going on. And so that was just something that intrigued me. And then just moving on so you can get to writing. Okay, these are the links. I think I didn't mean to put that in that order, more links. Or no, I think I did. Okay, so one way you might want to make a list of what you notice, details, all that we talked about at the beginning, words that come to mind, what materials are used, how you feel when you look at the artwork, what the mood is, what the subject matter is. If you have time and you want to do some research, you might want to look up, who the artist is and who they followed, who influenced them, and so on. But if you want to, did you kind of come prepared with something you want to write to, or do you I was trying to figure out if there's a way I can put these up so you can see them.
Can you post the links in the chat?
Oh yeah, I can do that. Let me do that. All of them or any particular ones?
Just all of them so we can take a look.
Yeah. But you know, anything that you find inspiring is good. It could be like, okay, so here's one. And let's see. Here's another one. So what we'll have is about, you know, what time is it? Let's say 25 minutes. Does that sound good? To do some writing, you know, no one, I don't know, some people have written like fully fledged poems, you know, in that time that in workshops I've been in, which just blows me away. But does anyone have questions? Or here's some of them. This one, I'm giving you the whole Vigilant museum link, which is not the park, which I'm not sure if it includes the park, but I hadn't known his work and it was so affecting. I mean, he represented, I think, every emotion and experience of being alive. Okay, here's one. Did I do that one? And I think may I do this last one? If there's any other work of art that you can think of off the top of your head that you want me to include a link for, I can do that. I can find it real quick and include it in there. Oh, one thing I might want to show you is, let's see, can you see this? The Ekphrastic challenge? I don't know
No.
if you can. No? Okay, let me, I'm gonna put a link in here because it hasn't been updated for November yet, but if you do write something, they will have it updated probably later today. And it is fun. I mean, probably submitted 40 times. They usually have some interesting artwork, and it's interesting to see how people approach it. All right. Are there any questions, or do you want me to shut up and you can get started on writing time? Okay, I'm gonna mute myself. I'm gonna, I guess, take down the PowerPoint unless anyone wants it up for any reason. Okay. All right. So we'll come back at about yeah, I agree. I know I've got a subscription to Rattle and I'm way behind, but they also do every week they do Poets Respond, which is like news poems, news related poems, and then daily poems, and they usually have some other themes going on and all kinds of like way too much, but incredible interviews and things like that. Okay, so let's give it till like let's give it till like 10:05. Is that okay? And then we'll have about 15 minutes to talk about it. So you've got 5 minutes for writing time left. Maybe take about 1 more minute just to finish any thoughts you have going. I hope that was enough time to at least get something started. And then just, yeah, let me know when you're back. If you're not on screen, I'll just let me know if you're just give me a thumbs up or something. Andrew, I've met you before somewhere, I think. Yeah.
I think it was through Culturama.
Maybe, yeah, it probably was last year or
Yeah.
I was trying to remember. I think I attended a workshop with John Brantingham years ago, like 10 years ago. And I'm trying to remember if that was Culturama. I was just getting to kind of know the different communities and
It might have been. I've been doing Culturama stuff for many, many years, as
yeah.
Wood can tell you.
Yeah, I thought so. You can give me pointers. I have another one
You're doing great.
Okay, good. Thank you. It's my first time, so I'm just really excited to be doing it, but it's a new experience for me, so I'm learning. I lost, who'd I lose? I've lost a couple of people, but I don't know if they will be back or not. Is everyone back, or are people still writing? You're back. Okay, Slavka. Wait, I have it down. Swavka. Are you back? Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I wrote it in the chat. Yes, I'm back. Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Does anyone want to, oh, I saw it now. Does anyone want to share what they wrote?
I'll go ahead and do it.
Okay, thank you.
I used the guy on the skyscraper because that was a really interesting image. So this one is called American Emperor. He stands back turned to the city sprawled over the river, a taming by factory smoke. And he ties rope, his buddy helping on the safe side of the hooked fence that prevents the death of imperial citizens, whether tourist or not. Even lines, neat, tidy, form the empire from concrete blocks to the miniature buildings below, all stolid, serious business here. Look through the viewfinder to the ends of the horizon, ocean or sea of city, people on people on people. That is how he is able to stand so assured, perched on the tallest buildings. The graceful clouds crown him far removed from the chaos of men, while he plays at absent emperor.
Yeah, I love that. That what it was so interesting, especially with it being the Empire State Building. That was a good strategy, and it really did it did take in like the whole scene. I'm kind of agoraphobic, so just looking at that picture makes me anxious. I like the viewfinder and the like him being the emperor, and just the guy on the safe side. And I couldn't tell from the perspective in the photo. Her photos are so incredible. I mean, that's why I went down a rabbit hole looking at all her, like, page after page after page. I mean, what a discovery. And I guess I don't know if anyone's seen the documentary, but I heard that there was a documentary about her, and that it's pretty good. Did anyone have any comments on Andrew's poem? I like how you emphasize too, like the lines, and there's this human being, but there's also this kind of I don't know, geometric component or something, and the contrast between, well, and all the little people down there that you can't even imagine, and here's this guy in the foreground, and I don't know, just it gives you that sense of the height, I guess, too. And I don't know, did anyone want to say anything about that, or does someone want to share what they did?
I was going to say a similar thing about Andrew's poem. I mean, I just kind of let it wash over me rather than typing out any lines that were there. I can't recall it, but I recall the element of height and that sensation that's embedded in that poem, and then realizing partway through which of the pictures were used was quite a beautiful experience. So thank you.
Yeah, isn't it great? I love Ekphrastic. I don't know. I have one of my mentor doesn't like Ekphrastic poetry unless it stands on its own, and I do like it when it can stand on its own, but I do love the combination because, as I said before, to me, they each each gives me an insight into the other, and I love it. And I agree, the details, they say concrete details are everything, are a good way to go in most poetry. I mean, I know there are a lot that are more, kind of vague and hard to get into, but that really did include a lot of great concrete details. Will someone else want to share? Because I love hearing these. We have about 9 minutes. So I'd love to hear anything else anyone wrote, even if it's not done, at least. I think I find, in my critique workshop, just reading it out loud sometimes helps me also. I learn things about it by reading it out loud. if that makes sense, you know, the flow of it and the.
I'll have a go. It's not finished and doesn't even have a title. I used one of the Vivian's photographs from that link, so it took the place of many photographs. I think it might have been the 8th or 9th one. So it's New York, probably the 50s. This is not a city I know. It's not a time I knew, but the doors are familiar. On the corner of a street I don't have the name for is a shop which has looked closed my whole life. Outside, as if it's still the 1950s, are wooden doors, lent in Pythagoras' theorem against a brick wall. The doors in New York are standing to attention flat against the fronts of the building or an unseen wall. They do not encroach a wider footprint. The city's skyline rises behind them, mountains concrete with windows. Our lazy slanted doors yield to sky and cloud. I have never seen anyone stroll past them. Can't read my writing. Hypotenuse of doors too risky. Old doors in a New York street. Paint has peeled, all their opening already done. I think of the houses they used to belong to. The man walks past without a glance. These frames part of the landscape. He parks his car and walks to work, as if none of this was there.
Oh, that seems pretty finished. I don't know, that's pretty amazing. I think, you know, it gives that sense of yearning and also that feeling like we're always in these, you know, it always strikes me how many people there are out there that you don't know their lives, and we walk past, like you said, you know, you walk past and you don't know, you don't even think, you know, we're all caught up in our own experiences and what's going on the other side. And that line, something about looked closed all my life, it spoke to me a lot. Like, you know, that seems very metaphorical, you know, it says a lot. And then I like the Pythagoras' theorem and just you know, the paint peeling and just again also a lot of good details and that feeling of separation or isolation between the guy walking by and the houses that, you know, contain life. Maybe they used to, like they used to, you know, what the houses they used to belong to or whatever, you know, they may be closed down now. And it really gives you a sense of you know, being part of history, but time passing and, you know, what life was once like, and it helps keep us in you know, our lives in perspective a little bit, I think. Does anyone want to say anything about that?
Yeah, it's always fun to hear, you know, even if it's only a couple once or twice a year. Um, but I really love that line that you pulled out, Betsy, that sense of like the store has been closed here ever since I can remember, even though I've never been here before. It was really cool. There's this really interesting sense of alienness
Yeah,
too, which is really interesting. Like there's a little bit of alienness, a little bit of bizarre, and also like a little bit of like nostalgia and sadness in the
yeah,
poem. And that's I think you were talking about the separation. There's a lot of separation here between the speaker or the viewer and the subjects that they're looking at, which is really interesting.
yeah. That's, I
Really
think
liked it.
you articulated that better than I did. I think I was looking for the word alien, you know, that alien. And like you said, you know, the whole, exactly what you said, that's what I felt from that too. But I feel like, you know, you could do a whole book of poetry just on Vivian's photos.
Yeah.
But it would
Yeah,
be
exactly.
selecting them. I mean, they're all just, oh my God. I mean, they're all like so amazing to me. Did Yeah, now I want to see, was that, I know there were like street scenes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because I got caught up in all those, and then it goes into like, I don't know, color photographs. I didn't even get there because I had been, down that rabbit hole for about 3 hours, but and it was very hard to just pick one. Does anyone else want to share? I love hearing these. This is so fantastic. We probably have time for another person to share if either Lydia or Swafka want to share. Or do you want to, Swafka?
No, I was playing, I kind of moved between 2 photos. One was the guy on Vivian Mayer's photo of the guy on the skyscraper, and the other one was the photo of the men queuing, the statues of the men queuing for bread. And I wrote, I kind of have, it's just like, it's just a few lines, and I think, but I think I'll work on these. I'll just read this. These days, sorry?
No, we're continue.
Yeah. So I start, it's really just the beginning of something. I don't know what this will be. These days, there is a line for everything. Only yesterday, they queued for a job. The day before, they queued for bread. It was eggs before that. Today, instead, they're queuing for peace. If they can only get a handful, maybe it will be enough. Maybe it will patch up the rubble. It will close the wounds. It will muff the whistle of the bombs before they boom. And that's, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's powerful.
That's amazing.
Thanks.
Queuing for peace. I mean, that gave me goosebumps too. And I mean, that's why I think that photo is kind of timeless, because we're all, and during the pandemic, I mean, to me, the pandemic's not quite over, but we've had shortages and all these things with listeria and this and that. There are a lot of things that are, hard to get, or bird flu or whatever was affecting the poultry and all that. So no, you definitely have something there that's very powerful.
I really like the first line where, they're standing in line, like everybody's standing in line all the time for everything and just changing it up what we're waiting for. This is really, really cool.
Isn't that cool? That's what I love about working with these, photos or paintings or whatever, because it gives you something to, I don't know, to me, it really sparks something that I wouldn't have gotten to otherwise, probably. So I appreciate you sharing that. That was definitely powerful. But yeah, I could, whereas that artist too, I could see just a whole book of their writing to their work, because they have a lot that I discovered. I forget what was his name. It was very also very poignant pieces. I don't know if Lydia's there, wants to share, or does anyone have any? I know we're basically out of time, so I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun for me, and this is a first and reassuring. And I feel like, it's inspiring to me, to make me want to write something, listening to what you all did.
Yeah. Thank you for leading the workshop. I always love hearing people's work when they in these workshops, because they're so fantastic. It's just amazing work from everybody.
Isn't it incredible? I just, and I love how different, it shows you there's room. What do they say? There's a lot of rooms in the house of poetry or whatever, because sometimes sometimes I'll be like, well, I don't need to look at all these amazing people, why am I writing? And then there's room for everybody, and everybody's got such a different take on it based on their background and experiences and everything. Oh, good. I'm so happy. I'm really happy to read the chat. It's I was definitely very grateful to be asked to do this, and I'm so many easy to compare, but we shouldn't. It's just, I try not to do it, but it's very difficult not to go into some of these readings and go, okay, I'm gonna stop writing now. You know? It's just, but then I, slap myself. So,
As a
so
poet, you're supposed to. It's part of the what is it, the penance for being a poet.
I've got that, yeah, I've got that constant, not, inferiority complex or so, just you feel like a fraud or whatever, but it's like, it's just amazing to, and also what's that famous poem? It was like, your words might fit the exact, need that someone else has. They might need to hear what you have to say. And I do keep that in mind, that whenever I feel inadequate. So thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. Getting up early, well, to me, that's early. Oh no, I was gonna go a weekend. I don't even know what day it is right now. I can't believe it's November.
Yeah.
It's shocking, but I really appreciate it. And I'll be here tomorrow. I'm doing a persona workshop. Oh, thank you so much. I'm just very thrilled. Thank you, Lloyd, for inviting me to do this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Congratulations on your first workshop. That was
Thank
fantastic.
you. Thank you.
So the next workshop is an art workshop on gatekeeping and cosplay, which is a really cool community that I'm learning a lot about from one of my colleagues, Francesca Terzano, who's a big member of that community. And then at 1 o'clock, we'll have Stephanie Barbyhammer in this exact Zoom room talking about revision. So revision is really important. I tell my poetry students all the time, revision is where the real poetic craft comes in. So hopefully you can join us for that. Betsy mentioned she'll be back tomorrow at the same time. She'll be leading a workshop on persona poems. And then also tomorrow will be Andrew with his
Nice.
workshop on evoking the senses. So hope to see you today. Maybe tomorrow as well. I'll be
Yes,
back here in
definitely. I used to be so afraid of revision, and now I've learned it is my friend. So
yeah.
I definitely recommend.
So yeah, we'll be back here at 1 o'clock.
Okay, thanks
Yeah.
so much. Okay,
Bye, everyone.
bye. Thank you.
Ooh, Guy Fawkes. That's right.
Yeah,
It's
I
happening.
was looking at that.
Yeah.
Guy Fawkes, that's right. I thought what's Guy Fawkes Day? It's
It's
isn't it?
November 5th, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they must be doing something this weekend.
Yeah.
So
That's fun. Okay, well, that was really enjoyable. I hope I hope they seemed happy, and I loved hearing what they wrote. That's so neat.
yeah, there was some fantastic stuff. No, it was great. Thank
Really,
you so
really
much, Betsy.
impressive. You're welcome. Thank you. So I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, have a good rest of the day.
You too. Okay,
Okay.
bye.